Oops. Yeah, I wasn't supposed to see that. You already know. Call your friends. Call everybody. Let them know. Let's go. Let's go. Get in here. Wake your asses up. Okay. Let's try that again. My bad. You know what it was? Well, that's good. That's good. That's good. That's okay. Get the technical bugs out of the way. No big deal. Um, yeah. So it's live. Don't trip, everybody. I have my mic on mute because I was actually working on something else and it was pretty loud. And I just needed a second to let that run its course. And I forgot to take the mic off of mute. So it's off. Blessings of the evening. Welcome to the. I wish they had a way where you could rewind so you can come back and do it clean. But hey, it's live, man. That's the way it is in the age that we live in. So I mean, it doesn't have to be. I could do these pre-recorded, but I enjoy the exchange with the audience and with the chat. Please remember to keep it respectful because I want the show to have a vibe. You know what I mean? And when people are disagreeing with each other in the chat, it just keeps the spirits up when the disagreements are respectful, right? It's okay to disagree with people. It's okay to have arguments in the chat, but it's not okay to dehumanize people. It's not okay to well, it is okay to be dismissive if somebody is going to advocate for ignorance and advocate for their own ignorance, then sure, dismiss them. You could be dismissive. I'm not here to speech police, just like I'm not into thought police. But I still, if it's okay with you, I want people when they come here, particularly if they're participating live while it's live, I don't want people to feel threatened. You know what I mean? Even if they're Christian, if they're people who disagree with me or don't like me or don't like the whole idea of what I talk about, I still want everyone to feel welcomed to be here and to just express themselves, because it's kind of scary to live in a place where you can only open your mouth if you agree with the dominant ideas. I think that's what scares me about churches. I find churches to be very scary places because that's all about thought police. It's all about thought police. I've seen brothers go into church and try to take it over and tell the truth, and I've seen them catch a really bad beat down from the people who were supposed to turn the other cheek. So, like, for real, it's been on YouTube and everything. So, yeah. So you won't flock to a pre-recorded video. I like it live. Oh, that's cool. Well, hey, there you go. We're here. So as you can see, it's live, right? So that's what's up. Okay. So come on in, call your girlfriends, call your boyfriends, call your enemies. Definitely call your Jesus believing family members, because tomorrow's Mother's Day, or later today actually, and they're all gonna be sitting in church. You already know that. The majority of the black women in America are going to be, and probably in other countries as well, are going to be sitting in the churches tomorrow, and they're dressed in their very best, while the pastor reads from their Bible, right? Their Bible, right? So we just want to give them some food for thought while you're in that hall of falsehood, right? While you're in the center of plagiarism. That's what these churches are. While you're in these centers of miseducation, is an I-7. Oh, yeah. So in the left upper corner is an I-7. Yeah, I mean, it's no big deal. So they can see that, light viewers. Right. I should be able to make that disappear. All right, that's cool. That's all right, no big deal. Facebook angry Lewis Roberts. Well, okay, let's go. There he is right there. Awesome. Okay. Hey. Hey, I appreciate that. It's a very, very thoughtful thing for you to say, Lewis. I appreciate that. It's very thoughtful. I'll do my best to live up to it. I don't always, but we all have to have something to live up to. I think that's important, right? Plus, it takes one to know one. So, shout out to you. Okay. So, she said, not this. So this is one black lady that will not be sitting in church tomorrow, listening to the pastor miseducate people and celebrate their Jesus lies, their Bible lies, right? So here we go. Oh, no question about it. I'm back with the white, and the white's back with me. That's what's up, right? So do you remember what we spoke about? The priest wearing white yesterday, in the Gospel of Mark, when Mary and whoever was with her showed up at the tomb, and there was a man sitting inside the tomb dressed in a white robe, and he told them that Jesus was not there. He said, "You're looking for Jesus. He's not here. He was raised." Remember what we talked about yesterday about that? About who that man actually represented, right? Because remember, the whole thing is a motif. The whole thing is a motif. And I showed you in the pyramid text where that motif came from and how much of the ritual, the original ritual, was left out of the Gospel of Mark. And so when you look at that and you see this repeated pattern, what you see is this pattern of many of these motifs throughout the Gospels are just part of ancient Egyptian eschatology, where they edited out the rituals and kept and maintained the eschatological structure and then wrote their narratives around it, right? To the best of their ability. And each author took their shot at it. Each author had their hand in it, right? Whoever wrote Mark, whoever wrote Matthew, whoever wrote Luke, right? Right? Whoever wrote John, right? And why do we say whoever? Because it's common knowledge that nobody named Mark, Matthew, Luke, or John wrote those. It's very common knowledge. Okay? So why they still call it the gospel according to Mark and the gospel according... I mean, even the title, can you think about that? Even the title is a lie. Think about that. Even the title of the gospel is a lie. The gospel according to Mark. It's not. No one named Mark wrote it. He never called himself Mark in the gospel. Same thing with Matthew, Luke, you know? So, exactly. Yes, Courtney, absolutely. That's who that was sitting in the tomb with the empty coffin, with the empty sarcophagus. It was an Egyptian priest. And that's why he was wearing a white robe. And they edited that out of the Gospels. So what we're here to do tonight is we're going to get into, or this evening, or this morning, or this afternoon, depending on where you are, where you're seeing this from. We're going to continue from where we started. And as much as I would have liked to have done this broadcast earlier in the day, because my goal is my priority is really just to be here daily and develop a rhythm. And I'm saying, okay, even if I'm not going to do, even if I'm not going to do every day, at minimum 3 times a week. You know what I'm saying? I should be up here 3 times a week. And I want to be able to do them back to back so that we could build momentum when we're teaching and learning. So for those of you who don't know me, welcome to the platform. My name is Shakka-Ahmose, and this platform is Hieroglyph with Shakka-Ahmose. I'm your host. And the main focus of this platform is basically explicating on the actual origins of Christianity as it relates to ancient Egypt and African history and culture. Okay? And so if you're interested in that kind of topic, then this is where you want to be, right? This is where you're going to find probably the most insightful perspective on the subject matter on the internet in general, or off the internet, right here, right? So what we're doing is we're going through my library, right? We're going to be, every month, we're going to go through a different book in my library. If we could do 2 books a month, we'll do 2. We do 1 or half a book a month, however long it takes to get through the book. So this month, well, first of all, forgive me for not having open the visuals, because visuals matter, people. They matter, right? So let's get with the visuals first so we can appreciate the aesthetics of why we're here and what it is that we want to be looking at. Okay, so here we are. All right, we're doing part 2 of Christianity, the bastard child of its African mother, ancient Egypt. Okay, this is what we're doing. We're doing part 2. Okay, and yesterday, what I basically did yesterday was I took the audience through the comments about the book that were listed. Let's grab the book that were listed on the back of the book cover. Here they are. I wanted you to see the comments and the reviews, and I wanted you to see who made them so that you could see the consensus of real scholarship that spoke very highly of the book and recommended the book for what is known as upper class divisions in the university, because they really, really endorsed the scholarship that much. And I wanted people to understand that. We also looked at one of the persons who authored one of the reviews of the book is also a member of the Society of Biblical Literature. And we went into who and what that was, what they do, and their relationship to the publishing of the ancient Egyptian pyramid text, the standard version. And we looked at that, and that led us to look, we're just recapping quickly, that led us to look at the pyramid text, and we did a compare and contrast collation with the Gospel of Mark to show where that motif of the door of the tomb being opened, or the entrance of the tomb being opened, and resurrection taking place inside of the tomb. And we looked and we documented where that motif was in the pyramid text of ancient Egypt to show where the Christians lifted it from. Okay? Basically verbatim. Okay? So just giving you Troy, you funny, right? Okay. I'm trying to wipe the sand from my eyes and get out of bed. Well, you might want to, because we're actually going into the book. Okay, we're actually going into the book. So that's what we're going to be doing. All right, we're going into the book. Let me see. Get that off my head. Okay. Matter of fact, let me look and see. Okay. Oh no, it doesn't. Okay, that's interesting. Okay. Oh no, it's not there. All right, cool. I was thinking that certain things that I can see on my screen, I was thinking that you guys could see it as well, and that it might have been covering me in some form of fashion. And apparently, that's not the case. I just looked at the YouTube channel broadcast of this. So let's see. I don't remember doing. I sure hope I did. Let me take a look and see again on YouTube. Yeah, okay, it's there. I did. I was like, did I put a title on the video? Did I I know what I didn't do. Here, let's do this now. Copy. I don't think I did. Here we go. Okay. So the heck? Thank you. Okay. There we go. Okay, awesome. So we're in. Just getting a few technical things out of the way before we and waiting for a few more people to come in, you know. So let me see. Christ, if I remember my lessons. right? Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So in any event, that's what we're here to do. We're here to go into the book now. Okay. For those of you who are watching this in the future tense, and for those of you who often watch me in general, I like to spend a few minutes with people who are participating live before I just jump right into the broadcast, into the presentation, if you will. And it's just a privilege that they have of being here live. Hey, about time you showed up. You've been on my mind all day. But let me call this individual. But things have been so busy. I'm just just trying to keep up and make sure that my broadcasts are coming regularly. Like, this is training for me, to make sure that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. Yes, you do. Absolutely. No, you don't. I always owe you for being such a good brother. Keep it green, baby. Keep it green. That's what I like to hear. Right there. That's what I like to hear. Ready for this build. Absolutely. So, Kyle, Bet, I know you just got your new employment thing going, and you're taking care of business. So we're good. Right? Okay, absolutely. So, oh man, it's been grand. So, let's get started, man. Let's not wasting more time. Whoever takes too long to get here, I'm sorry. People need to be paying attention, or you need to have your thing set so when I go live, you get a notification, right? That's something that you have to do, right? When I go live, you have to set up your situation so that you get a notification, okay? Or you can join my mailing list, and before I go live, I will send out a notification on my mailing list. I'm not. I'll be doing that at the beginning of next month because I'm first have to learn how to operate it by myself, right? I'm trying to get to a point where everything, well, not everything, but many things affiliated with the broadcast, the Hieroglyph broadcast, I won't have to depend on other people to do it. I have found that I'm the most reliable person I know. And that's true for all of us, I guess, Oh, my back. Hold on one second, people. Now I'm going to do something I didn't think I would do earlier. That's better. Yeah, just so I can sit up straight. There we go. I did a back workout the other day, and I'm just like, I'm like, golly gee willikers, For those of you who didn't see yesterday's live, I strongly suggest you go watch it. Because that was a pretty good introduction to the book that we're about to go into. It really was. I think so. So, yeah, that's what's up. That's what's up, Courtney. And and when you guys learn these things and I show you these things, it's important that you remember them. And it's important that you teach them to other people so that other people in our community and throughout our community, particularly our family members and those responsible people in our communities, they have to be held accountable. Hold them accountable for perpetuating and advancing a false religious narrative in our communities and in our midst. Gone are the days where the Kemetic community has to bow its head and, hide in the shadows because people are offended by facts and by the truth and by history. Okay, they're offended by the evidence. They're offended by real, genuine scholarship, and they're offended by the historical record. So, absolutely, folks, it's really important. Hit the like button. Hit the like button. Hit the like button. What are you waiting for? No, I'm like right now, like hit the like button. I'm talking to you right now. Okay, so hit the like button to let them know that this is the program that you want to see. That this program is supported by the viewers who come to this platform. Okay? Hit the like button and subscribe. Subscribe to my channel. Because you should. Because you will learn. Okay? So it's very important. So all right, let's get started, people. BS'd enough. So again, Christianity, the bastard child of its African mother, ancient Egypt. This is part 2. Okay? So let me camouflage briefly. Before I get started, because certain people in here will read me the riot act if I forget. They will read me the riot act. They'd be like, yo, bro. They'll be like, what happened to the intro?
On my own, but I ain't never alone. I got these niggas wanna bring me in and bring me to the day that I'm gone. I see so many great things, it's like a king on the stone. I'm looking back on my own. On my own, but I ain't never alone. I got these niggas wanna bring me in and bring me to the day that I'm gone. I see so many great things, it's like a king on the stone. I'm looking back on my own. I see it all.
Looking back, I see you there. Seen so many great things. Hey, look at that. Surrounding myself with the best that this life had to offer on my own. Looking back.
On my own, but I ain't never alone. I got these niggas wanna bring me in and bring me to the day that I'm gone. I see so many great things, it's like a king on the stone. I'm looking back on my own. On my own, but I ain't never alone. I got these niggas wanna bring me in and bring me to the day that I'm gone. I see so many great things, it's like a king on the stone. I'm looking back on my own. I see it all.
Looking back, I see you there. Seen so many great things. Hey, look at that. Surrounding myself with the best that this life had to offer on my own. Looking back.
Okay. Still with me? Awesome. That's what's up. Hold on one sec. Okay. I'm still here. Don't panic. Here we go. Okay, that's better. All right. So yeah, people. That's what's up. Okay. Absolutely, no question. This is always appreciated, very much so. Absolutely. So, no question. We really appreciate that. Duty bound in the house. No question. So, what it's going to look like is like this, people. I've made a commitment to the Hieroglyph platform to take care of business first. Once at the beginning of the platform, and then once at the end. Once again at the end, so we don't have to be interrupted. Okay. it's not house cleaning. I forgot what it's called. But when you take care of it, but we're gonna take care of some home ec, right? So first thing we need to do is hold on one second. Here we go. All right, where am I? Here we go. Cool. Awesome. So I don't, that's not what I wanted. It's just giving me what it wants. It's like, I'm PowerPoint and I'm the boss. I'm like, no, you're not. I'm Shakka-Ahmose. I'm the boss. Right? So what we're going to do at the beginning of the platform is make it possible for those people who want to invest in the platform to make sure that the platform is here on a regular basis. It's very easy. All you have to do is go to Cash App, just type in $ Shakka-Ahmose. And as I say at the beginning of every broadcast, I don't teach for free. Teaching for free is the fastest way to put yourself out of business. Teaching for free is the fastest way to make sure that you won't be able to teach, because your responsibilities and obligations will not be addressed or tended to. And so it's a policy of the platform that everybody watching and learning pays for the service being rendered. But here's the wonderful kicker. You pay whatever you want, right? You pay whatever you want. It's not a contribution. It's not a donation. It's payment. That's how you show respect to the platform, right? That's how you express your vote, by putting your money where your mouth is, putting your resources where your mouth is, and saying, yeah, I believe in this. This is what I want to see. And you know what they say, freedom ain't free, right? That includes freeing your mind, right? So I've done my part, which is putting this platform together and making sure I'm coming with that irreplaceable content, that essential, irreplaceable, essential content. And your part is just to do this, just to go to Cash App, $ Shakka-Ahmose, and make your payment, whatever it is that you want it to be. I don't care. For those of you who make a payment of $100 or more, your name goes on a very special list. So at the end of the month, there will be a course or a class, if you will, just for those persons who made that particular payment at that level. For everyone else, I'm just going to make sure that you're getting what you're supposed to get right here. You don't have to go to Patreon. You don't have to go looking for me on some other fans only thing or whatever. I mean, those are great places to make money. But my goal is to make sure that the majority of people in the world, particularly us, our communities, get the information and get the content. And you can't necessarily do that when you are sequestering your content just for money. You understand what I'm saying? I respect those who do it, and some people might say, well, Shaka, you could, it doesn't have to be either or, you could do both. At the end of the day, if you're doing both, you have to curate both. You understand what I'm saying? You have to curate your Patreon channel. You have to curate your YouTube channel. That's a lot. I'm already overextending myself just by the amount of studying that I do. So between studying and just taking care of my physical, because I'm very particular about my physical, between studying and taking care of my physical, that's a lot of work. And so what I do to try to take larger steps closer to success on a regular basis, it's just simplify and streamline everything. This is where I'm teaching. This is where you can come and get the information. And you're not being stopped from getting the information by this, this obstacle in front of you saying, oh, pay me first, No. We taking it back to the old school. It's the honor system, I honor you, you honor me. It's that simple. Okay, so Cash App, $ Shakka-Ahmose. Go visit it and handle your business. And and that's going to ensure that that I'm back here tomorrow, day after that, day after that, day after that. So that's done. I did that thing, right? Fahi irzunut fahi. Fahi irzunut fahi. Value in exchange for value. That's what they would say in ancient Egypt. Fahi irzunut fahi. That's Eden Kemet, the language of Kemet that I'm speaking. Okay? So that's what we are doing here. That said, we're going to get on with why we're here. Okay? So, hold on one second. This is actually pretty easy, and I don't even mind if you guys even see me do this. Normally, I'm like, don't pay any attention to the man behind the curtain, right? So, as we showed yesterday, right, the claim being made, right? Oh, why this thing keeps doing that? Maybe I need a new PowerPoint. Huh? Okay, there we go. All right. Okay. So, this brother in the this gentleman in the second seat from the right, his name is Muhammad Tanzimur, and this fucking PowerPoint, man, my shit is just so sensitive. It's powerful, but it's sensitive as heck, right? This gentleman, that's why his name is whitened out, or highlighted rather. So you have Pastor Eric Mason, who you've seen me going on before. Pastor Jerome Gay Jr., who you've seen me going on before. If you watched the last few episodes, ISIS, was ISIS a virgin, right? They claimed that she wasn't. I proved that she was. I documented that she certainly was. And don't ask me why, but sometimes my PowerPoint just has a mind of its own. Just does it at once. So and I didn't put any words in his mouth, but he made the claim that ancient Egypt has no theology. He made two claims. One claim he made was that ancient Egypt had no theology. The other claim he made was that it had no sound theology. And as I pointed out in yesterday's broadcast, those are two different claims. So the first thing he needs to do, he needs to get his act together and tell us which one is it. Either they had no theology or they had no sound theology, because it can't be both, right? Well, actually, it can be. If they had no theology, then it automatically goes that they had no sound theology, because they had no theology, if that's true, right? And once again, the question has to be asked, for those of you who didn't see yesterday's broadcast, the question has to be asked, Shaka, did he really say that? Did he really say that ancient Egypt had no theology? And I don't put words in people's mouth, but this is what they're sitting on the stage in I forget the name of Pastor Mason's church in Philadelphia, but this is what they're doing in the Black community. They're going in these churches and they're trying to Bible-splain and Jesus-splain away the facts. And they're doing it by trying to speak on ancient Egypt and the Kemetic community by misrepresenting facts and by basically speaking as if they're experts on something they just only recently discovered. And they've only recently discovered it because of what we've been saying. So you don't get to read a book or watch a few videos and all of a sudden you're an expert and you can go up on a stage and teach ancient Kemet. That's very irresponsible, right? You have to remember, those of us who are speaking about Christianity, we grew up in the church. We're not strangers to Christianity. We're not strangers to the Bible. These people act like they live in an invisible force field where the Bible was only available to them, where the sermons and the lectures on Christianity and what Jesus did and blah, blah. We were spoon-fed that and force-fed that from the time we were in our mother's stomach. Most of us, if you're black and you're coming from the black community, the first church service you ever heard, you heard while you were still in your mother's belly, sitting while she was in church. And you probably smelled all that perfume while you were, from all the other women in the church, while you were in your mother's belly. So we can speak on it. These people have no experience in the Kemetic community. They haven't done in-depth study on ancient Egypt to really know what we're talking about or to know what they're talking about, as we're going to see right now. So the question is, Shakka, did he say that? Well, let's find out.
Egypt has no theology. And I think what a lot of people is getting confused when they're being addressed by Kemetics and different people that study in Egyptology is that they have a sound system. They don't. They have no sound systematic theology or system of understanding how Egyptian theology even worked in the first place. They're working off fragments. And not only are they working off fragments, they're working off fragments that come from different dynasties. So now you might have had one pharaoh in the 18th dynasty that was worshiping Anton, but in the 19th dynasty, he's worshiping Amun. In the 17th dynasty, he's worshiping Ma'at. In the 12th dynasty, they was worshiping Sekhmet. And in the dynasty before that, they was worshiping Isis. And then the dynasty before that was all about Horus. So they try to piece together a theology which don't exist.
So there you go. You heard it. Okay? They have no theology, right? First, they have no theology. Then they have no sound theology. So he needs to make up his mind. Which one is it? Is it no theology or is it no sound theology? Make up your mind, okay? So you heard him. Ancient Egypt has no theology. And I said yesterday before we logged off, I was amazed that you would even say that. I was amazed that he would even say that because most people who actually study history know, I'm talking about general historians, know that ancient Egypt is the birthplace and the home of theology. So for him to say that they had no theology, I mean, it just makes me think of, there's a difference between low IQ and no IQ. Or I don't want to say that, just historically illiterate. To me, he just came off as his historical illiteracy. Okay. So let's take a look. Okay, so here we go. Oop. All right. Anyone who has anything negative to say about my own economic activities, you buy yourself a ticket to Blockville. Okay? Never speak on another person's economic endeavors. It's not your place, and it's inappropriate, and it's disrespectful. Okay? If you just want to come here and siphon information for free, then that's on you. That's your karma that you're putting. I don't use that term karma. That's your ma'at that you're putting out in the world, right? That's, you have to deal with the reciprocal fallout of that. Okay, so now that problem has been solved, so but this is what he said. So let's see if that's true. Let's get into the book, the much discussed book that we spoke about yesterday, and let's just see if that's true. Okay, because apparently he's an expert. All right. Apparently, Muhammad Tanzimore is an expert, just like Pastor Eric Mason is an expert on ancient Egypt. Pastor Jerome Gay Jr. is an expert on ancient Egypt. All of these idiots. I got to find another word. All of these historically illiterate people are experts on ancient Egypt. So let's take a look. So here we're back with Dr. Karl Luckert, Ph.D., and his text published by the State of New York University Press, Egyptian Light, Hebrew Fire, Theological and Philosophical Roots of Christendom and Evolutionary Perspectives. And please keep in mind, as we covered yesterday, I made it very clear what that term Christendom, how that term Christendom is to be consumed. We showed the different contexts in which Christendom can be used and what is being said when it's used in a particular context. And when we looked at the definition of Christendom, 1.1 specifically said the Christian world, meaning it's an inclusive term. Everything in it, from the worship of Jesus to the Bible, everything in it. Christendom is referring to that amongst, as well as other extended things, okay, concerning Christianity. And there's another context in which the term Christendom is used, which describes things beyond the Bible, aspects of Christianity beyond the Bible, such as the Roman worship of Christ, or the pagan attributes that that Christianity in the West purportedly appropriated for themselves in their development of Christianity, or in their expression of Christianity. How they co-opted, appropriated, and plagiarized much of the cultural and religious expressions of the ancient world, and then represented them back to the world as Christian expressions. Okay? And so a lot of this is referred to as Christendom. And what you have is that you have these, I'm going to call them what they are. You have these weirdo evangelist Christians, most of whom are Protestants, and Baptists, and so on and so on, Calvinists, and blah, 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 blah. To me, they're all the same. Confused, miseducated, and lost. They subscribe primarily to the dated context of the word, which is anything that is extra biblical, right? Anything that is extra biblical, meaning basically outside of the Bible. That is what they call Christendom, but that's only one context. And as I showed you in the last broadcast, if you want to see it, go look at it. As I showed you in the last broadcast, there's another context, 1.1, that I'm pretty sure it's 1.1 or 1.2, that explicitly gives the expression of Christendom, or the explication of Christendom, as the entire Christian world. And when you're talking about the entire Christian world, that is inclusive of the Bible, Christian theology, Christology, all of the things that they use to reinforce their Christian identity, and the things that they use to substantiate their Christian rationale. Okay? So Christendom in that context includes all of that. And you have to remember that when you're arguing with them and debating with them. See, if you don't know how to debate these Christians, particularly the apologists, they will pull out get out of jail cards more than a little bit. So you have to really know what you're talking about when you're debating them. You have to squeeze them into a tight corner where there is no room for maneuvering at all, and force them to confront the facts. Now, you can forcing someone to confront facts and having the person accept the fact as a fact. It's two different things. One you have some control over. You can confront someone with something or force someone to confront something. The other one is not up to you, right? They may not be psychologically capable of accepting a fact as a fact, which is usually the case when it comes to Christians. Their minds are turned so inside out and are so indoctrinated and are so so compromised by Christian circular rationale that to show them a fact, it's almost futile. It's strange. It's a very strange experience sometimes dealing with them because you could see the psychological not psychological depravity, but you can see the psychological compromise. They're psychologically compromised. I mean, when you are literally incapable of confronting a fact and seeing not just the fact, but the implications of that come along with the fact, what the fact implies, and so on and so on. When you are physically incapable, psychologically incapable of doing that, that's an issue. That's a problem, So, because one has to wonder, well, what other parts of your life does that translate into? The fact that when it comes to this subject matter, facts have no. What did Vince Bantu say? Professor Vince Bantu? He said, no matter what fact you show me, Jesus Christ will always be my Lord and Savior. That's deep. Because what that means, you're saying is that no matter what fact is shown to you, any fact that runs contrary to your beliefs does not change your position. You're not a scholar. You've abdicated your right to be called a scholar. You have no capacity to be objective. You don't belong in a scientific discourse. You don't belong in scientific discourse of any type. You don't belong in academic discourse of any type because you've shown an inability to, for lack of a better term, conform to facts, to observe facts, to acknowledge facts, right? How can you teach facts you don't acknowledge, right? So it comes down to very simple math. You might not like the fact that 2 + 2 = 4, but if you're incapable of confronting that fact and then communicating that to someone else, you are an issue. Whether it's you as an individual or you as a community, you are an issue, right? You present a psychological issue. You follow what I'm saying? Well, yeah, I don't see him. Hey, what up, cousin? Say a word. Let me find out. All right. Yeah, yes, he is. Absolutely. Duty bound shouting you out. That's my son, Karl shouting you out. Hey, that's what's up. Okay? Absolutely. I'll tell you something too. One of the things that really pisses me off about I'm going to talk about this later on. The Christian scholarly community. I told you that term is so weird because they're not scholars. Hey, right? Hey, Felicia. Such a wonderful surprise, right? It's like anything and everything that proves that the Jesus story is false, they have a narrative for in the Christian so-called academic community. So as I said yesterday, let me tell you something. When you're dealing with Christians and this whole polemics thing, to a very appreciable level, your thinking has to be very sophisticated because you're dealing with subterfuge, you're dealing with obfuscation, you're dealing with subterfuge and obfuscation on a profound level. on a profound level. Do you remember in one of my when we were talking about when we were in the Isis was a virgin presentation, I invoked one of the books, quoted it, that talked about how Christianity came up with a plan back in antiquity to appropriate all knowledge, all known knowledge in the world. And then they redefined everything, right? They redefined, classified, and labeled everything. And a lot of these things have what's called psycho-effective material, a lot of terms, a lot of words like pagan, heathen, heretic, things of that nature, right? These are psychological words. And so, and there are many more like that in the English language and in other languages as well. But in any event, let's get into the book because that's what we came here for, okay? Oh, very quickly, I brought up the Christian scholarship, so-called, because I was watching, so when people are talking about early Christianity, they're trying to explain things. What a lot of these Jesus scholars is what I call them. I don't call them scholars. They're Jesus explainers, right? What they call themselves scholars, but they're not really scholars. There are very, very few real scholars who are part of the Western canon of academia that are Christian, but are objective and rational thinking people, right? And in fact, most of the people who left comments, or rather who left reviews, who wrote reviews for the book that we're into, they're Christians. They say in their bio, they describe the kind of Christians that they are. They just happen to be objective, rational thinkers when confronted in this milieu, and they have to be, because Professor Luckert, who wrote the book, is one of their colleagues and peers. So they don't have the luxury of just trying to blow him off. See, they don't have the luxury of being like, "Oh, you're crazy. That's not true," and they don't have the luxury of doing that, because they know the level of his scholarship. When they wrote their reviews, they had to show that respect. And when you read their reviews speak of the level of scholarship that's in this book. Get the book. And for those of you who want to get the book, as I requested in the last broadcast, please use the link in my description. It's an affiliate link, and if you use that link to purchase the book, it supports the platform, okay? It sends revenue, it generates revenue for the platform. So, which is me, I'm the platform, right? Which is myself. So, Hieroglyph is me, and I am Hieroglyph. So, in any event, okay, just taking a look. All right, so let's jump in it, okay? So he said they have no theology, okay? Finally, y'all don't know how long I've been waiting to get to this book. It's like, yes. Okay, so let's do this. All right. Egyptian Light, Hebrew Fire, Theological and Philosophical Roots of Christendom and Evolutionary Perspectives, Dr. Karl W. Luckert, Ph.D. We're going to start with page 4. In all likelihood, more readers will be prepared initially to begin wrangling with the theological profile of ancient Egypt. Oh, but wait a minute, I thought ancient Egypt had no theology. So if ancient Egypt had no theology, why are we talking about a theological profile here? Okay, it says, in all likelihood, more readers will be prepared initially to begin wrangling with the theological profile of ancient Egypt from the point of view of the Hebrew tradition, then from the field of Neoplatonic philosophy. This is somewhat unfortunate because as I now perceive the situation, the theological dependency of Christendom on ancient Egypt is much stronger than its theological link with the Hebrew tradition. Uh-oh. I'm sorry. I thought that from what I was told, from what we were told, ancient Egypt had no theology. That's what he said. That's what he said. That's what this wannabe scholar said. This dude right here, Muhammad Tanzimur. This wannabe scholar. He said, ancient Egypt has no theology. Well, if ancient Egypt has no theology, then why is the theological dependency of Christendom on ancient Egypt much stronger than its theological link with the Hebrew tradition? And that's from the preface. Prolegomena for methodological reorientation in the history and evolution of religions. He continues on page 22. Let's look at it. Okay. Yeah, let's look at that. Okay. It said, why is the theological dependency of Christendom on ancient Egypt much stronger than its theological link with the Hebrew tradition? Because they had no theology. Okay. The grand domestication phase of human evolution is important for understanding this book. Egypt has been a grand domestication system par excellence. The Hebrew Exodus tradition defined itself as a reaction against it. Greek philosophers who also reacted to the problems of grand domestication have themselves drawn much basic ontology from Egyptian grand domestication religion. Subsequently, Christendom, that means the world of Christianity, which is inclusive of the Bible, its theology, its worship of Jesus, all of that. Subsequently, Christendom, from the moment of its conception, has inherited the Hebrew reaction against Egyptian grand domestication, but it also has taken up into itself some of Egypt's own ontology and theological structures. Well, folks, y'all know what that means, right? Y'all do know what that means. Oh, y'all don't know what that means? Another shattered Christian lie. That's what that means. That's what that means. How can Christianity have taken up the theological structure of ancient Egypt if ancient Egypt had no theology? You can't have it both ways. Well, you don't even have it one way. You have it the wrong way. Muhammad Tanzimur. Right? You said ancient Egypt had no theology. This is what you're teaching black people in church. Because the only thing a pastor knows how to do is lie. The only thing a Christian knows how to do is lie better than the pastor. Right? Or the other way around. The pastor lies better than the average Christian. I don't know. They all lie pretty much the same. Okay? Let's continue. Read that part again. But Christianity, also Christendom. Christianity, Christendom is synonymous in this context. But it also has taken up into itself some of Egypt's own ontology and theological structures. Think about this while you're sitting in church tomorrow during Mother's Day. The ancient Egyptian civilization and its concomitant religiosity provided Hebrew religious tradition with its raison d'etre, its rationale. Egyptian theology furnished Greek philosophers. Well, how can Egyptian theology furnish Greek philosophers with anything if ancient Egypt had no theology? See, you got to see, these people lie on such a level. Oh, and by the way, the reason why I showed you Muhammad Tanzimur making that statement that ancient Egypt had no theology, right? The reason that I showed you him saying that.
Egypt has no theology.
Right? The reason I showed him saying that is because that's what prompted me to go back into this book. I've had this book for many years. But when he said that and I heard him say it, I was like, that's a strange thing to say. I said, well, let me go and look back at what experts on the subject matter had to say. Y'all know me, I appeal to authority in a heartbeat, right? That's my logical fallacy all day long. So I went and I looked and I said, Luckert was really good in his field and other scholars really respected him, had a lot of respect for him and for his work. They said so in the reviews. So I said, well, let me go see what Dr. Luckert had to say about it. And lo and behold, I went to the index in the back, and I said, well, let me just read every single page that's dealing with the theology of ancient Egypt. And I just, my jaw was just hanging down, like how could you sit on a stage and say something like that when here is a whole body of literature on this particular subject matter? Because it's not just Egyptian light and Hebrew fire. But I realized when I looked into my library that there are a number of voluminous, legitimate texts. Because this is a university textbook, by the way, that we're looking at. You have to keep that in mind. You have to keep that in mind. This is not some fiction book from Barnes and Nobles. The Bible is in the fiction section, by the way. This book is not. This is nonfiction. You know what that means? Real life. Okay? Real life. So what did he say about their theology? Hold on a second. Because every time he even mentions the word theology, my mind just races back to Muhammad Tanzimur saying they had no theology. And I'm just like, well, here it says, Egyptian theology furnished Greek philosophers, beginning with the Ionians and concluding with the Neoplatonists, with their ontological presuppositions. And Hebrew and Egyptian religion, assisted by Neoplatonism, contributed content and structure to Orthodox Christian theology. Let's read that last part. Hebrew and Egyptian religion, assisted by Neoplatonism, contributed content and structure to Orthodox Christian theology. Hold on one second, folks. Where's that at? Cover your ears. We're about to shatter another Christian. Because you said they had no theology. Or they had no sound theology. Well, whether it was sound or not, their religion along with Hebrew and Neoplatonism, contributed content and structure to Orthodox Christian theology. Pastor Mason, wannabe scholar. Pastor Vince Bantu, wannabe scholar. Adam Coleman, wannabe scholar. Alfredo Valentin, wannabe scholar. Damon Richardson, wannabe scholar. You see, this is not coming from the conscious community. Dr. Luckert is not a member of the conscious community. I'm not even a member of the conscious community. I'm a member of the African community. That's what I represent. Okay? I'm a person of African descent speaking on behalf of African historical legacy as it relates to theology. Legitimately so. I can do that. I looked in the mirror. I noticed I was not Chinese. I looked in the mirror. I noticed I was not Italian. I looked in the mirror. I noticed that certainly I was not Russian. I looked in the mirror and I noticed that I was not German. And so as the numbers begin to dwindle down, I think you get the point. Okay? So as an African, this relevant topic and subject matter brings to mind all of the innocent little black minds in schools and in churches and the grown black minds. These are very susceptible, vulnerable minds because they have no historical literacy of their own to rely on. And so your arguments about the black church in early Christianity, or the church of Carthage, right? It was called the African church. Your arguments about the early church fathers, Athanasius, and all of that, Augustine, Tertullian, Cyprian, Origen, right? All of that notwithstanding, none of that has any bearing on the fact that, and in some ways it does, but none of that has any bearing, not the way you would want it to, but in some way, it has no bearing on the fact that Christianity is still an appropriator of content and structure of religions that preceded it, and it freely admits in its historical record that it took these things. But the way that they do it, it's done in such a strange way, like they brag about it and then they deny it. How do you deny something you brag about? That's strange. It's like somebody walking into a police station bragging about a murder they committed, and then when they find the body and all of the evidence, they say, you know, you're going to jail. And he's like, why? I didn't do anything. That's Christian logic. They will sit there and read Justin Martyr, read Basil the Great, read all of these early Christian theologians and orators who said what the church had done. Read what they read it. Read them. They tell you. Right? I showed you in the last book that we went through how you had the great Basil the Great. I think it was Basil the Great. A 3rd century Christian theologian recommending to his nephews and nieces to educate themselves from pagan materials, to read and immerse themselves in pagan materials, to educate themselves. Why? Because Christianity had no education of its own. None. They had to take from everybody else. That includes philosophy, that includes theology, that includes all. Anyway, I'm not here to just da-da-da. Let me just get back to the text. Let Professor Luckert have the floor. So, Hebrew and Egyptian religion assisted by Neoplatonism contributed content and structure to Orthodox Christian theology. So the reason why I stop and digress, can you imagine what it feels like to hear somebody sit on a stage and say ancient Egypt had no theology, and then there's a text like this sitting around, actually a college textbook telling you this? As far as Christianity is concerned, it may now be argued that, supported by the broader historical background, it had fiery Hebrew religion as its father. Yes, indeed. This book will not detract anything from that well-documented paternal heritage, nor will it depreciate the general Semitic context of Judaism in Mesopotamia. But with that same historical honesty, one now must also acknowledge the fact that ancient Egyptian religion has been Christendom's more quiet mother. Did you hear that? Ancient Egyptian religion was Christendom's more quiet mother. Pastor Mason, Vince Bantu, Adam Coleman, Alfredo Valentin, Damon Richardson. And we're not talking about Christendom beyond the world of biblical Christianity. That's Christendom in the first context. We're talking about Christendom at 1.1 or 1.2 in the Oxford Dictionary, where it talks about the Christian world, which is an all-inclusive term, inclusive of the Bible, Christian theology, and the worship of Jesus. That's the Christendom that is being referred to. and that the mother of that Christendom, of the Christian world, was ancient Egyptian religion. That's what he just said. That is what Professor Luckert, Ph.D. from Garrett Theological Seminary in Illinois said. Okay? Remember, he attended it, although he got his Ph.D. from the University of Chicago. Okay? Watch the previous broadcast and you'll see what his pedigree and credentials are. Okay? So, in any case, post-Jamnian Judaism was not the father of Christendom. It was a sibling born alongside and apparently from the same parents. All the while, the distinct Christian strain of fresh theological awareness, of fresh revelation, mostly has been a revival. Oh, I got to read that part again because I really, really want people to get this. Like, I really want people to understand this part. Okay? In any case, post-Jamnian Judaism was not the father of Christendom. It was a sibling born alongside and apparently from the same parents. So what does that mean? That means post-Jamnian Judaism is also a child of Hebrewism and ancient Egyptian religion. So it's not just Christianity that was born from the Hebrew identity and ancient Egyptian religion, but it was also post-Jamnian Judaism as well as Christianity. It was a sibling born alongside and apparently from the same parents, which there's a confirmation in that statement. All the while, the distinct Christian strain of fresh theological awareness, listen to this, all the while, the distinct Christian strain of fresh theological awareness, of fresh revelation, mostly has been a revival of time-tested ancient Egyptian theological truths. I'm sorry, Muhammad Tanzimore. Professor Luckert, University of Chicago, Garrett Theological Seminary in Illinois, right? We ran down this whole pedigree yesterday. We don't have to go. We showed a long list. So go look at part one, because we went through a page that had all of his credentials. This is not from the conscious community, so stop telling that lie. Okay? Stop telling that lie, Pastor Mason. This is not from Helena Blavatsky and Gerald Massey. And I mean, you're so stupid. You're so immature and unlearned to say things like that. Just because that's your introduction to ancient Egypt and its relationship to Christianity, it doesn't mean it's ours. It certainly is not Professor Luckert's. This man is a real credentialed scholar. He's a Ph.D. from the University of Chicago in the history of religion. But you're going to tell that man he doesn't know his subject matter? Everybody's stupid except Pastor Mason. Everybody's stupid except the Christians. Everybody's illiterate except the Christians. Everybody can't read except the Christians. Only Christians can read. Only Christians can see the sun in the sky and the moon in the sky. Everybody else is wrong. Think about it. I want you to think about something. Think about a child in a classroom who is always getting into fights with people or whatever, right? A young student. But it's always somebody else's fault. Everybody else is always wrong except him. Think about that kind of person. Everybody's always wrong except him. You automatically know who the problem is. Because he doesn't understand the ebb and flow of life. Anybody can be wrong. Everybody can be wrong, including you, including myself. Okay? But Christians are never wrong. That's a dangerous precedent to set. It is the beginning of ignorance. It is the beginning and the stronghold of ignorance. It's that Christian arrogance I'm always talking about. They're never wrong, ever. Okay? I have a great disdain for it. So let's continue. Yes. All the while, the distinct Christian strain of fresh theological awareness, of fresh revelation, mostly has been a revival of time-tested ancient Egyptian theological truths. Sorry, Muhammad Tanzimort. Now, in the book, he actually gives this awesome diagram. Okay? Let me show it to you. It's a great diagram because it breaks down the actual relationship between the religions. It's a wonderful, wonderful diagram. And it's a schematic drawing depicting the ancestry and birth of Christendom among Near Eastern civilizations. Judaism was the father, Egypt was its mother, Mesopotamia stood as godparent, Hellenism served as midwife. Okay? So those were all the players that gave birth to Christianity. Everyone that he just named. He said Judaism was the father, ancient Egypt was the mother, Mesopotamia was the godparent, and Hellenism was the midwife. He's giving you the genealogical structure that gave birth to Christianity. And see, the problem that Christians have with it is that they confuse the Gospels with history. We already told you what that's about, right? That was an effort at grafting their cult worldview onto the historical record. They grafted it onto the historical record. So they took their mythological beginnings. So they were first called Christians here and da-da-da. So bunch of crap. Bunch of crap. You know, and then they tell you it means anointed and da-da-da. If you read the real Christian scholars, remember I said there's a difference between Christian scholarship and scholarship about Christianity. They're two different things. Christian scholarship, stay away from it. These are Christians who are passing themselves off as scholars. They have Ph.D s, they have masters, they have all of the trappings of scholarship, but at the end of the day, they're Christians. And as I said in the last episode, asking a Christian scholar about early Christian origins is like asking a crackhead about the downside of crack, right? Or a meth head about the downside of methamphetamines. They're only going to have nice things to say about it. You understand? And that is the case in the state of Christian scholarship. Now, when you have scholarship about and of Christianity, that's a different thing. These are scholars that are just purely scholars who are just saying, look, here are the facts. Now, you have some scholars that are at that level who have that kind of scholarly gravity, but at the end of the day, they're still Christians. I'm not going to name them just yet because we're going to look at their work as we progress through each broadcast. Right? As we progress through the broadcast, I'm going to introduce you to the true world of Christian scholarship because you haven't seen it yet. How do I know? Because I watch quite a few people's programs. I'm always listening to who are they mentioning? What scholars are they mentioning? What work are they showing on screen so that Black people can get a real bona fide education? None of them show it. None of them do it. And that's why I put Hieroglyph in place so that you could have a platform that actually does that for you. The same way we're going into this college textbook, which is what it is. The same way we're going into this college textbook to see what they're saying about Christian origins from a theological perspective and a philosophical perspective, historically speaking. That's why we're here and that's what we're doing. So let's continue. Right? So he gives the breakdown. Okay? Judaism was its father, Egypt was its mother, Mesopotamia stood as godparent, Hellenism served as midwife. So one of the other Christian lies that just got shattered, by the way, is Christian scholars love to sit on these long tables in these big auditoriums in these universities And one of the lies they love to tell is they love to say that first century Judaism was not Hellenized. They love to say that. And the reason they love to say that is because it then it obfuscates the truth that first century Judaism in Palestine absolutely was Hellenized. It was Hellenized to almost consummately. Almost consummately, it was Hellenized. But the one thing you will learn about a Christian, especially a Christian with a degree, these people lie the way you breathe. The way we breathe air, that's how they lie. That's the ease with which they lie. And they will straight face look at you and lie as if it's strange. And the scary thing is they believe the lie. And the reason they believe it is because they have a need to believe it. With all of the facts and all of the documentation, I have whole Ph.D. material talking about first century Hellenistic Judaism in Palestine and how it was everywhere. And then to watch a panel of these Christian scholars, because I watch a lot of stuff on early Christianity, like really long 3-4 hour lectures. And I'm talking about their top scholars. I only listen to their top scholars. And many of these are old or middle-aged white men, not all of them, but most of them. And they live in this echo chamber, just like the apologetics community, the urban apologetics community. They live in this echo chamber where they just basically say things back and forth to each other, and everybody confirms and nods their head and go, "Yep, that's true." No research on their own to see if what was said to them is actually true. That's why I said, to me, I have no problem with debating all of their best. Richardson, Bantu, Eric Mason, all of them at the same time. I have no problem with it because I know they don't really study. They think they study, but they don't. They live in an echo chamber where they're taught to parrot everything that aligns with what they believe. And to me, that's what makes them dangerous. It's one thing for you to be short-sighted, but then it's another thing for you to truncate somebody else's vision and to make that your life's mission. To me, you're a problem. In my worldview, yes, you're absolutely a problem. Okay, so let's continue with it. Oops, it moved. Of course, it moved. Okay, where are we? Okay, man, it really moved. Gee whiz. Oh, here we go. Okay. With historical hindsight, the Christological, Mariological, and Noumenological controversies during the early Christian during the early Christian centuries may now be understood as birth pains for the emergence of Christendom. The birth pangs, while they are now almost forgotten by the offspring, were nevertheless real labor pains on the part of Christendom's mother, the expiring religion of ancient Egypt. Our old Egyptian mother died in the centuries during which her vigorous offspring emerged and began prospering in the Mediterranean world. Her labor pains were her death pangs. Throughout her life of almost 2 millennia, this Christian daughter born of Mother Egypt has remained relatively well informed about her ancient Hebrew paternal tradition, being reminded of it constantly by the Hebrew origins of its early layer of sacred scriptures. At the same time, the mature daughter, Christendom, to this day has not been told about the identity of her deceased mother religion, whose theological and soteriological temperament she closely resembles. Hey, Pastor Mason, this is for you. That's for you, dummy. You think Dr. Luckert is part of the conscious community? Dr. Luckert, Ph.D., you think he's part of the conscious community? You saw his pedigree in part 1. I read all his credentials. Fulbright professor, professor emeritus at South Minnesota State University. He's a bona fide scholar, real scholar. Are you going to say he's reading Blavatsky too? Huh? That's right. I see the numbers going up. Go get your Christian little apologists and tell them to watch this. I told you those other channels weren't showing you the real scholarship on Christianity and the relationship between Christianity and ancient Egypt. They're not showing you. Because most of them don't really read. They don't really study this stuff. Look at that language. At the same time, the mature daughter Christendom to this day has not been told about the identity of her deceased mother. That's not true. They have been told. Every time we tell them, they call us crazy. Or they call us, I don't know what they call it. They got all kind of names for us. They think we're lost. We don't know what we're talking about. Blah, 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 blah. It's not that Christianity. And that's another thing Christians, and by the way, he's a Christian. This scholar that we're reading, he's a Christian. That's why he said our religion, Christianity. He's talking about himself. Right? He's a Christian. But he's a scholar. He's a scholar first. And so he's telling the truth. This is a university textbook. And you know what Christian scholars do? What they do is they develop this, what they do is they develop a language. It's kind of like divide and conquer, right? They use language to divide themselves from other people, no matter what their occupation is. And so when you get real scholarship like this at the university level, and you're taking Dr. Luckert's class, and this is the textbook that you're using, because that's what this is. It's a textbook. It's published by State University Press. When they hear this stuff, what they do when they get amongst themselves in their echo chambers, they refer to such scholars as liberal scholars. That's what they do. That's the appendage they put on them. Or that's the appellation, rather. That's the appellation they put on them. Liberal. You know what liberal scholars teach? And liberal scholars this and liberal. So what they do is they vilify people by labeling them. They don't deal with the truth and the facts of what's being said. And when they do, the one thing I give them credit for is they figured out a solution to make their problems go away. Just lie. Just lie. Just say it's not true. That's all. Tell your congregation it's not true. Tell your followers it's not true. That's the solution. It's like politics. If you want to make a problem go away, you just kill a person. Just neutralize. Use pretty language to do it, though. Neutralize the person. Neutralize the problem. Right? Keep it 100. Keep it a buck. The mature daughter, Christendom, to this day has not been told about the identity of her deceased mother religion, whose theological and soteriological temperament she closely resembles. That's page 29. Our historical quest for better understanding the roots of Christendom in the Near East must begin quite logically at the oldest written source materials containing religious information. Now, he didn't say that the search should begin in 19th century England or 18th century France or any of that. Where did he say the search should begin? Because see, they want to tell you, because Pastor Mason's going to make another video next week saying they're getting this from Zeitgeist. They're getting this from YouTube and Facebook scholarship. You people are fucking insane. You're literally, well, you're not even saying, you're just liars. That's all. I'm not even calling you, you're just liars. Look where he's getting, look where he's making, look at the sources that professor is referring to make these, to come to these conclusions. What did he say? Our historical quest for better understanding the roots of Christendom in the Near East must begin quite logically at the oldest written source materials containing religious information. These sources we find in the royal pyramids. Now, we know we ain't talking about Jesus because Jesus ain't got no pyramids, right? These sources we find in the royal pyramids of the Egyptian Old Kingdom and in patrician coffins reaching into the first intermediary that followed. Still talking about ancient Egypt, the first intermediate period and the period before that, which is the Old Kingdom. Now, so he's talking about the pyramid text and the coffin text. That's what he's talking. The same text that I showed in yesterday's broadcast that illustrated the resurrection in the tomb with the door being open, or with the entrance being open, while resurrection was taking place in the tomb. So stop lying to your community. That's all I'm saying. Why can't y'all debate us on some fair and square stuff? Because Christians don't play fair and square. They cheat in the name of Jesus. They cheat in the name of Jesus in a heartbeat. Why can't you see us face to face with the facts? Why do you have to spread rumors? That's what the Christians do. They spread rumors. Jesus' resurrection is a rumor. That's all it is, a rumor. That these retards put everything on the line for. I call them what they are. I'm not pulling any punches. That's what they are. No historical veracity at all. They want to historicize the Gospels. Are you serious? If the average Christian who studies early biblical literature knows for a fact that nobody named Mark wrote Mark, nobody named Peter wrote, nobody named nobody named Peter either. But forget his corny letters. Nobody named Matthew wrote Matthew. Nobody named John wrote John. Whose work are you reading? You're telling me that my soul depends on something written by somebody and we don't know who this person was? That's what you're telling me? That's what you're telling us? Because we know that nobody by these names wrote that. So we're just supposed to take this anonymous writing and just say, yep, God's honest truth, facts. Where they do that at? Like, when did we decide that that was the route we was going to take? At this particular juncture. Okay, that's all. I'm just asking. Here we go. Okay. Let's continue to look. He's talking about the sources that verify his position. He says, as I now view the matter, let me make sure the screen is up. 1 second. Yes. Okay. As I now view the matter, a similar relationship existed between Egypt and what became the Judeo-Christian tradition in relation to Hellenic philosophy and Gnosticism. In these traditions, I have found unmistakable traces of the ancient Egyptian central theology. Let me read that again. This light is kind of blinding me. Let's read that again. As I now view the matter, a similar relationship existed between Egypt and what became the Judeo-Christian tradition in relation to Hellenic philosophy and Gnosticism. In these traditions, I have found unmistakable traces of the ancient Egyptian central theology that, as historians concede, has flourished most conspicuously at Heliopolis. In post-Egyptian religious traditions and philosophies, these ancient Egyptian traces determine central existential axioms. I am obliged to regard Egyptians as having remained within the general drift of their Heliopolitan heritage. Egypt appears to have endured in the shadow of its own theological tradition until strong new religious movements swept over it. In superficial historiography, it may seem as though Hellenic philosophers had indeed converted the Egyptian elite, and that beginning with the 1st century CE, Christian theology and a variety of Gnostic soteriologies converted the masses. This is how philosophers and Christian historians have interpreted events, of course. But the ontologies of these conquering waves tell a different story. Stop. What does that mean? Because it's very important. You don't graft over that. He's giving you game. He's telling you, he's describing a situation where not just the biblical narrative, because if you read the biblical narrative and you know the ancient Egyptian structure, eschatological structure, you can see very plainly and clear. It's almost like being an architect who understands blueprints, right? If you've seen the original blueprint for something, and then you go someplace else and you see a spin-off version of the original blueprint of something, it's very easy for you to know which one relied on which. It's very easy for you. It's the same thing with the whole Proverbs and Amenope contrasting, right? And we're going to go deep into that as well. I know that my brother Jabari did something on that. One of the things that really is annoying about what we do is when another scholar kind of like beats you to the show, so to speak. I've had my hands in so many things over the past few years. I haven't been able to really present as much as I'd like. So there are a lot of things that I was going to present on that unfortunately other scholars jumped on it. They presented it. But other people have still asked me to present on those same things because they, rightly so, they will get much more insight. So I'm still going to present on that, on the whole Amenemot thing. Okay? So in any event, so let's get back to what Professor's saying. Professor Luckert, Dr. Luckert. Where's he at? Right. He says this is how philosophers and Christian historians have interpreted events, of course. But the ontologies of these conquering waves tell a different story. So what that means is that not only the Bible, but the historical narrative that they give you is one that kind of supports, in an indirect way, the Bible version. So what they try, as I said, they try to marry history with the Bible narrative. That was an actual undertaking, basically by the Christian church. They had a monopoly on the publishing houses of the time and of the book trade as well. And so it was nothing for them to be able to just graft their religion onto history, so to speak. And so, therefore, history, quite often, if you're not shrewd enough, will kind of reinforce the biblical narrative here and there. But what the professor is saying, that while history is telling you one thing, we'll put history in quotation marks. He's saying that while history is telling you one thing, and I guess trying to be polite, he didn't mention the Bible, but he's saying while history, conventional history, standard Western history, because remember, at certain junctures, it's going to support the biblical narrative. But that's by design, because the biblical narrative was married or grafted onto the historical record by the early church. So what he is saying is that while the historical narrative is saying one thing, but the ontological principles embedded in the religion itself, in the scripture, is telling on itself. It's betraying where it actually comes from. So you have to be able to follow the discourse. This is what Professor Luckert is saying. He's saying while the historical narrative is telling you one thing, because in many respects, in some respects, it's closely aligned with the Bible for reasons I just spoke of, particularly Western standard history. What he's saying is that okay, we hear what you're saying about your Jesus, this, that, and the third, and Mary and Joseph, and all. We hear that. Unfortunately, or we hear how unique Christianity is. That's their favorite thing. It's a unique religion. And they're going to die on that hill, and that's exactly where they're going to die. Because it's false. It's not unique at all. And what he's saying is that while you're telling us this narrative about Jesus, Mary, and Joseph and all stuff, and that Christianity is unique and it's, it's authentic and blah, 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 blah. The problem is that the ontological principles inside the scripture, inside the narrative, the Christian narrative, it's showing where it came from. It's almost as if somebody came in your house, stole some of your items, like a vase, a lamp, a curtain or curtains, right? And then you went over their house a year later. You didn't know who broke into your house. A year later, you go into their house. And even though they're telling you about how they furnished their home, they won the lotto, blah, 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 you're like, wow, you got a vase just like mine. Hey, that curtain looks just like the curtain I had in my house. And then you're like, that stool has a broken third leg just like the one that was in my house. So what happens is that a pattern develops and the items begin to scream at you where they actually came from. And that's what he is saying about the ontological principles in the Christian religion. That the ontological, see, if you don't have the proper spectacles to look at something, it could be staring you right in your face and you won't know it. If you don't have the proper spectacles to look at something, right? It could be staring you right in the face and you won't even know it. And so if you're not looking at Christianity from an ontological perspective strictly, then you might not see it. You might not know it. Although we all see it and we all know it. But for those who are in denial, it's much easier for them not to notice if they're not looking at it from an ontological perspective. Okay? Because the average Christian is not thinking ontologically. The average Christian is thinking scripturally, doctrine, and really more culturally than anything else. This is what we do culturally, so this is why we do it. It's more of a cultural thing. They think that they're thinking on their own. They think that they believe this stuff because, no, you're just born in it. And you were spoon-fed it and force-fed it, and that's it. So let's continue. But that's a very, very astute observation, and I needed to point that out to you. Okay? He says, but the ontologies of these conquering waves tell a different story. Christians, Gnostics, and philosophers can be seen as having nationalized all the while their own gospels in terms of Heliopolitan emanational ontology. So basically what he's saying is that Christians, Gnostics, and the Greek philosophers all took their ideas about existence, non-existence, God, whatever, that they all basically, let's read that again. So I want to explain it correctly. But the ontologies of these conquering waves tell us a different story. Christians, Gnostics, and see Christians right up there, the first one. Christians, Gnostics, and philosophers can be seen as having rationalized all the while. Remember I keep talking about their rationalization? They rationalized all the while their own gospels. And how did they do it? In what structure? In terms of Heliopolitan emanational ontology. So this is the original philosophy that they used to express their religious beliefs. Why? Because they did not have their own ontological structure. Christianity did not have its own ontological structure. They had to use, just like the Gnostics did not have their own. The philosophers did not have their own. They all had to rationalize all the while their own gospels, if you will, in terms of Heliopolitan emanational ontology. So what is Heliopolitan? Because most of y'all be like, Heliopolitan? Well, what is Heliopolitan? So let me help you out. So you're not too you're not too lost. Okay, here we go. So for those of you who don't know what Heliopolitan is, right? Heliopolis was one of the oldest and main centers of ancient Egypt, particularly the academic or religious, if you will, their priestly institutions. In the Bible, it's mentioned in the Bible, it's called On, the city of On, O-N, On. Okay? What do you think of when you think of On? Light. Turn on the light, right? On. So I'm going to share my screen with you so you could see when he's talking about Heliopolitan emanational theology. According to these idiots, they had no theology. According to Muhammad Tanzimur, ancient Egypt had no theology. Well, here he's talking about Heliopolitan. Here, Professor Luckert is talking about Heliopolitan emanational theology, which is ancient Egyptian theology. So, Muhammad Tanzimur, if you were just speaking from your ignorance, that's fine, but keep your ignorance to yourself. Don't get on the stage in front of black people and speak about something you don't know anything about as if you're an expert on it, because that's the one thing black people, especially in the Christian community, love to do. They love to speak expertly about things that they don't know anything about. Nothing about. And then he had the nerve to say that they're just working on fragments of ancient Egyptian texts or theological fragments. Well, apparently, those fragments from ancient Egypt must be so profound, because the only thing Christians did was they took a fragment of those fragments and they built a whole world around it and derived a whole world from it. So those ancient Egyptian fragments must be pretty damn powerful for you to do what you did. Yeah, this is the priceless conversation. Oh, that's what I was going to do. 1 second. Here we go. So I just wanted to, I hate when this thing moves. I got to buy a new mouse or something. I can't stand when this thing moves. All right. My mouse is just too sensitive. If I just like, the wind alone will have it move the screen. So let me stop sharing for a second. I'm going to show you what Heliopolis is. Okay. Here we go. So I'm going to come here. All right. So, in fact, let's use Britannica. Here we go. Okay. Here we go. Just for those, because I want you to understand the terms being used. I don't want it to be using terms that you don't understand the reference of what it means and why it's important. Okay. So we're going to go to share. I'm going to go to share screen. And let's look at Heliopolis. So when he's talking about the Heliopolitan emanational theology, you can know what he's talking about. Okay? There's no need to be in the dark. Here we are at Encyclopedia Britannica. All right? And we're looking at Heliopolis. Okay? Here we go. Hold on, let me make sure that you guys are still with me. Yeah. Okay. Make sure you guys are still with me. Oops. I didn't realize I was oh gee whiz. Hold on 1 second, people. I'm just trying to see where I'm at on YouTube. Okay, yeah, here we are. Great. Okay, cool. So let's look at this. Heliopolis, ancient city, Egypt. Heliopolis, Greek, Egyptian Yunu, or Onu, pillar city, biblical On. So in the Bible, they call it On. It was one of the most ancient Egyptian cities and the seat of worship of the sun god Re. It was the capital of the 15th nome of Lower Egypt, but Heliopolis was important as a religious rather than a political center. That's why it was a sacerdotal community, right? During the New Kingdom, 1539 to 1075 BCE, its great temple of Re was second in size only to that of Ammon at Thebes, and its priesthood wielded great influence, particularly during the 5th dynasty, when the worship of Re became a state cult. Okay? So, here we go. Little remains today of this great ancient Egyptian city. The sole surviving monument is the obelisk of Sesostris I, the oldest obelisk in existence. Of the pair of obelisks erected by Thutmose III in Heliopolis, now known as Cleopatra's Needle, one stands on the Thames embankment in London, and the other in Central Park in New York City, which is literally a few blocks from me. I see it every day. I literally walk by that obelisk every day. Okay? So when he's talking about Heliopolitan emanational theology, he's talking about the theology from ancient Heliopolis, with God Atum-Re at the head of the state religion. Okay, and it was this particular center, as the article noted, would have been more religiously focused than it would have been politically. Okay, so according to the article, I don't know if I would agree with that, but that's what they're saying. So let us continue. I just wanted you to have that knowledge so that where is that? Oh, that must be coming up on yeah, that's an ad here. I'm like, where's that ad coming from? Okay, so in any event, now you know. Okay, it's an ancient Egyptian city. So when he's talking about Heliopolitan emanational theology, he's talking about ancient Egyptian theology. Okay, here we go. Share screen, and we're going to put it back on Hieroglyph. Here we go. Okay, I wanted to keep you in the loop so that you weren't out of the loop. Okay, so let's get back to it. So he's talking about, he said, Christians, Gnostics, and philosophers can be seen as having rationalized all the while their own gospels in terms of Heliopolitan emanational theology. In hindsight, their teachings appear, talking about Christianity, Gnosticism, and Greek philosophy. In hindsight, their teachings appear as the scatter from a single ancient Heliopolitan fireworks explosion. That's exactly as I've been describing the situation for basically quite some time now. That, as I said, Christianity is a fragment. Greek philosophy is a fragment. Gnosticism was a fragment. All of these are just little splinters and fragments of a much greater grand theology that existed in Africa, in classical Africa, in ancient Kemet, in Egypt. For some reason, Christians are beside themselves when this is made known to them and made clear to them, because they suffer from the religious, arrogant need to be exclusive and unique when they are neither. To me, that is the ultimate inferiority complex. It is the ultimate inferiority complex when you have to impose your religious illusions on historical facts that are documented, which we're documenting for you here. This is a university textbook, bro. You ain't got to like it, but it's the truth. I ain't got to cheat you to beat you. I just outread you. And I did that a long time ago. I never had this book for years. I had this book when Pastor Mason was still in high school or just starting high school. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. When Vince Bansu was still in high school, I was reading this. He might have was maybe in junior high school. I had this university textbook. So it had Christianity's roots as it relates to Heliopolitan or ancient Egyptian emanational theology. That hasn't been a secret to me. It's a secret to your dumb ass. That's why you're going to be in church tomorrow talking about Jesus, 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 and all this dumb shit. Because you don't know shit. You don't know anything about anything when it comes to your own religion. He said that in the book. That you haven't been introduced to your mother, ancient Egypt. That's a lie. We've been yelling it at the top of our lungs for years now. And it freaked you guys out. Because you know, it's like a child finding out that Santa Claus is fake. You're not going to be too happy at first. You know? It's not going to be too happy at first. It's kind of like, I think they feel like if they accept the fact that Christianity came from ancient Egypt, they feel like they'll be cheating on Jesus. Because when you think about the whole thing, it's like, imagine a guy in a relationship with a girl, and he thinks she's completely in love with him. And then he finds out at the bowling alley one night that she's not attracted to him at all. How do you think he's going to feel? Well, I think that's how these Christians feel when they have to confront the fact that the claims about their religion has not been faithful to them. Because those claims are very easily discounted and dismantled and deconstructed by the prevailing literature in the world. This is not a small community of literature and academia and educated scholars saying that documenting that Christianity had its origins from ancient Egyptian systematic theology or emanational theology. This, I mean, you know, this is common knowledge to people who study. Right? This is common knowledge to people who study. I don't know how we got here again. Well, you know how my thing loves to jump. So here we go. So let's continue and see what Dr. Luckert is saying. So yeah, he says, in hindsight, their teachings appear as the scatter from a single ancient Heliopolitan fireworks explosion. This theological scattering of ancient Egyptian ontology happened during the centuries when ancient Egyptian culture and religion were aging, while Egypt's colonized thinkers nevertheless managed to pass on traditional ontology to their foreign masters quietly and for the most part anonymously. And this is why you don't know where your gospels come from. Because the very men and perhaps women who dealt with the original material, which was the ancient Egyptian eschatological material, they didn't sign their names to it, to this stuff. That's not the way literature worked in ancient Egypt. It's just not. You know? Sometimes it actually did, depending on the genre of literature. Right? So when you look at the Sebayets are attributed to certain persons. Tahotep, Kagemi, Amenemat, Amenemope, and the list goes on and on and on. Their names are mentioned, right? Their names are mentioned. In the preamble to the text, usually their name is mentioned, right? but not in the eschatological stuff. In the eschatological stuff, and that's probably because, well, who knows why? You know, maybe there was some type of state monopoly on something where individual priests, or it might have just had been that, you know, it's something to think about as to why particular aspects of their literature in ancient Egypt were not attributed to certain individuals. It may just have been because it was taken for granted that these texts were so old. You got to remember, the pyramid texts were old before they were even inscribed on the pyramids. So, you know, and being that the coffin text and the Book of the Dead were just basically edited versions with some few things added and reworked from the pyramid text, who was going to sign their name to it? Why would you? Because apparently and look, it's no different with Christianity. Whoever wrote Mark didn't sign their name to it. Whoever wrote Luke didn't sign their name to it. Whoever wrote John didn't sign their name to it. Matthew, Mark, and Luke, right? They didn't sign their name to it. The Synoptic Gospels, right? They didn't sign their name to it. So even in that sense, they kept the tradition with ancient Egypt. Even in that sense. Which means what? The Gospels are anonymous writings, just like the eschatologicals of ancient Egypt. Anonymous writings. But you want to say that they don't even have that in common. Because then you want to lie and say somebody named Mark wrote Mark, somebody named Matthew wrote Matthew, and somebody named Luke wrote Luke. When are you going to have a sensible conversation about this stuff? Pastor Mason, Vince Bantu, Adam Coleman, Alfredo Valentin, Vocab Malone, and all the rest of it. I got to get the names of the females too, because they got a bunch of females up there too. Right? A bunch of gorgeous dummies. They have some pretty girls up in that apologetics community, but they dumb as the day is long. Right? It's the truth of the historically illiterate. They don't know anything about this subject matter. None of them. Just dumb as the guys. I'm not lying, right? The only time I feel bad about saying something is if I'm lying on somebody. I ain't lying. I'm telling you the truth. Okay? And this fool here talking about
Egypt has no theology.
This guy has what, an 8th grade education? Never studied anything on ancient Kemet for real? Or he may have an 8th grade education on this topic. He might have a degree in something else, but on this topic, he's got an 8th grade education. Sitting there saying shit like
Egypt has no theology.
Then why were you taking the ontological principles from the Heliopolitan theological system and embedding them in your gospel? Which makes it possible for persons like very astute persons like myself to then come along and hold your gospel up to the Egyptian text and then show you the ontological principles being highlighted in both texts, mirroring each other. I know you want us to believe that the ancient Egyptians copied from the Christians, right? That's going to be your was it Justin Martyr who said, I think it was, who said that the ancients had the help of the devil because they knew what the Christians were going to write, so he helped them write it first. You dumbass Christians. Man, they're just entertainment, right? So let us continue. It's absolutely crazy. The theological scattering of ancient Egyptian ontology happened during the centuries when ancient Egypt's culture and religion were aging. while Egypt's colonized thinkers nevertheless managed to pass on traditional ontology to their foreign masters quietly and for the most part anonymously, just like the gospel, anonymous writings. Gnosticism, most of you who are watching this know what Gnosticism is. It was a heretical movement of 2nd century Christian church, partly of pre-Christian origin. All right. Ontology is what? Right? We're talking about soteriology is the doctrine of salvation. Ontology is the branch of metaphysics dealing with the nature of being. This part, I don't read the first part, but it's that which deals with the nature of being. That's all. Study of the nature of being. Okay. I don't use the term metaphysics. It's a set of concepts and categories in a subject area or domain that shows their properties and the relations between them. Okay. So, and that even plays into the Christology, which is why he mentioned it before, when they tried to figure out how is Jesus related to, what is the nature of Jesus and God, and of their relationship, how do they exist, and blah blah blah. All even that part is it's a Christology, but it's a Christological ontology, if you will. Okay, so let's continue. Repeatable cycles of God beginning a son to rule the human realm of Egypt and returning his son again unto himself are what gave to the Egyptian grand domestication system an enduring rhythm through the millennia of its known history. An offshoot version of this Egyptian stability, enveloped by a slightly modified version of Heliopolitan Trinitarian theology, took shape in subsequent Western history. It stabilized Christendom and the Holy Roman Empire. Hebrew religion, Greek philosophy, and Christian theology are latecomers. Let me read that again. Hebrew religion, Greek philosophy, and Christian theology are latecomers. From their respective places in history, they have what? No parental claims over early Egyptian religion. Bro, I don't even think any Christian listening to me or watching me right now has enough brains to even understand what was just said. Christianity is a latecomer. And remember what I was saying a moment ago, that Christians want to claim that the Egyptians copied from them? No, it just said Christianity has no parental claim over ancient Egyptian religion. But you cannot say the reverse, because ancient Egypt does have a parental claim. Theologically, ontologically. Get over it. Get over yourselves. Christians, get over yourselves. Oh yeah, I'm a problem for you. You need to know that. I'm a real serious problem for you. I'm just getting started. This is the light stuff. We starting with the light stuff. The heavy stuff is coming. Because I'm going to show these people how fake Christianity is. It's fake on a level you couldn't even begin to understand. Listen to what I'm telling you. I've seen things and I know things about this religion that none of you know. I don't care who you are watching me. I've seen things that I know about this religion I've seen things and I know things about this religion that none of you know. It is fake as a penny made out of cotton candy. It's fake. Okay? Now, my thing is, we wouldn't have to go there if the Christians stopped being so arrogant and stopped pretending like they just fell out of the sky with this grand structured thing altogether and just, cop to the truth. That's it. Because we're going to make you say uncle. Believe that. We're going to make you say Pharaoh. We're going to make you say Nasut, king. You better believe that. Here we go. Let's get back on track. Ooh, I know people going to be watching this tomorrow and be like, ooh, Shaka telling on them. Damn right. Yep. Shaka telling on you. Shaka telling on the pastors. Oh, believe me, pastors be watching me. In fact, I forgot to tell y'all. One of my homies called me up. We haven't spoken for a while. And he was like, yo, guess what? And I was like, what? He was in church. He doesn't normally go to church, but sometimes he'll go with his girlfriend because she goes. And I think she goes just to please her family. I don't think she's really into the religion. I don't know. But he said, guess what? He said the pastor was talking. And he said he was kind of dozing off. And it's a big church, by the way. I know the church. He said he didn't say he was dozing off. He said he was getting bored or he was distracted or something. Might have been looking at his phone or something. And he said he was kind of like disconnected from the service. And then he heard the pastor say my name, Shakka-Ahmose. He almost fell out of his chair. Yeah. Apparently, some young person in the church had other young people, was recommending my videos to other youth. Hey, look, what you gonna do? What are you gonna do? So at first I thought he was pulling my leg, but I heard him yell out to his significant other, to his lady. And he was like, I don't want to say her name, but he was like, honey, what did the pastor say when we were blah, 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 blah? And she said, yeah, mention Shaka. So I know pastors watch me all the time. I know that because when they see me in the street, they stop me. They're driving in their cars and like, Shakka-Ahmose, can I talk to you? You know. Yeah, there were in time when they were inviting me by their churches. They were inviting me to their churches, but not to, I thought they were inviting me to their churches to speak to the congregation. And what I discovered was that they were inviting me to their churches so they could test to see how much they thought they knew. And they would invite me up to the rectory outside of the view of the constituents of the church. And yeah. And they would just try to see how much they would know. They would like, okay, well, I know this and I know this, but da-da-da. And they would be like, you invited me here for me to teach you for free? Really? Nah. So I stopped going. I don't respond to their invitations anymore. You want me to come to your church? It's going to have to be to talk to your congregation and tell them the truth, to really educate Black people on what that Bible is, where it came from. Can you imagine freeing all those souls and all those minds inside of a church? Can you imagine that? That's why I have no respect for Black pastors. None of them. Not one. Look, not one. Not one. I have no respect for them. You're a liar. You lie to your people every Sunday. You lie to your people every Sunday, year in and year out, 52 weeks a year, and you promote and perpetuate the lies of the Bible. Period. End of discussion. Period. And you lie about everything else about that. So if you're telling me and you teach us that the devil is a liar, so Satan is the father of lies and the devil is a liar, and all y'all do is lie, then what does that make you? I don't have to respect that. I don't have to respect you for that. And I don't. I have no respect for any of you. So I'm straight up. Keep it simple. You know, ask me to respect a lie because it's popular? Fuck out of here. Okay? I was never into popularity. Okay? So, Hebrew religion, Greek philosophy, and Christian theology are latecomers. From their respective places in history, they have no parental claims over early Egyptian religion. And this is from the section Heliopolitan Theology in the Pyramid Text. Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle have become the most famous philosophers of classical Greece. And then beginning in the 1st century CE, students of philosophy in the Greco-Roman world were destined to interact. To interact. Let me read that again. And then beginning in the 1st century CE, students of philosophy in the Greco-Roman world were destined to interact increasingly with another glow of Egypt-inspired spirituality, which as a spark has escaped from Hebrew fire. It was the Christian gospel. Uh-oh. Another glow. Oh, let me read that again. Hold on. Because they say, hold on. Don't they always tell you that that their scripture was inspired by God? Don't they always say that? That their scriptures are inspired by God? Well, Martin Luther King said that those scriptures were influenced by the writings of ancient Egypt. Professor Luckert, Dr. Luckert, is saying, now here you got Martin Luther King with a Ph.D. and Dr. Luckert with a Ph.D. Martin Luther King is saying that they were influenced by that Christianity was influenced by the writings of ancient Egypt, and then you have Ph.D. Dr. Luckert saying that the inspiration wasn't God. The inspiration was ancient Egypt. He just said it. This is not coming from the conscious community. This is not coming from 19th century England, right, or Britain. He says it right here. He says, another glow of Egypt-inspired spirituality, which as a spark had escaped from Hebrew fire. It was the Christian gospel. It's page 223 in the book, Philosophy, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle. Go read it. Neoplatonic philosophy and soteriology spreading from Alexandria during the 3rd century CE played a significant role during the institutionalization phase of early Christendom. Now, Pastor Mason going to go give a whole sermon about Christendom and how it's not Christianity. Liar. If you're going to talk about Christendom, talk about all the different contexts in which it's used. Here he's talking about the Christian world, inclusive as an umbrella, as a what's called a catch term or a catchphrase or an umbrella term, meaning all inclusive. Okay? Posterity has made use of the Timaeus that's written by Plato, for those of you who don't know. Posterity has made use of the Timaeus in a great variety of ways. Let me just check myself. Cool. The so-called Middle Platonists and Neoplatonists in Alexandria favored the Timaeus for what many modern philosophers have come to regard as its weakness for its voracious variety. This loosely structured treatise enabled Neoplatonists to remain within the sphere of Greek philosophy and at the same time dip heavily into their long-lost substratum of Egyptian wisdom to their heart's content. Christian theologians naturally prefer the Timaeus to other Platonic works. So let's talk about why. In the dialogues underlaying of Egyptian ontology, so we're talking about the Timaeus, a writing by Plato that Christian theologians like Augustine and the rest of them, Tertullian, all the rest of them had to study in Carthage, in which they loved because they all studied philosophy and all that other stuff. But when they were studying that stuff, they were actually being exposed to ancient Egyptian ontology via Plato, okay? In the dialogues underlayment of Egyptian ontology, they discovered a natural affinity with their own Christology and theology. Now that's deep, because what he's telling you is that these early Christian theologians, when reading Plato, right? Let's look at this again. And in fact, one of the persons I think who even mentions it is Clement of Alexandria, one of the patriarchs of the Alexandrian church, in his text, Stromata. Okay? Yes, which I've read. Okay? You know I've outread all these idiot Christians. Okay? Let's see. I know their own literature better than they do, which is their problem. Where was I? I'm sorry. Here we go. Christian theologians naturally preferred the Timaeus to other Platonic works. Why? In the dialogue's underlayment of Egyptian ontology, they discovered a natural affinity with their own Christology and theology. After all, Christendom was born from and overtaken by the same Alexandrian Hellenistic undercurrent of Egyptian theological notions that entrapped a periphery and a St. Augustine. Okay, so that can be broken down for you, but the most important part that you need to understand is that one of the things he mentioned that a lot of people would like to gloss over is that he said one of the things that Christianity was born from was Hellenism. These Christian scholars today will tell you, no, that Hellenism had nothing to do with it. They live in a fantasy world. While everybody else is in the real world saying this is what happened and this is what actually gave birth to it. They live in a fantasy world. They live in an echo chamber, okay? And everybody else is liberal. Right? It used to be heathen, it used to be heretic, now it's liberal. So they just, they're up to their old tricks of redefining and naming people, labeling people, okay? So let's continue. Here we go. Both men. Who are the men? Periphery and St. Augustine. Both men embraced the Egyptian process theology under the guise of religiously neutral philosophy. Each did so for different reasons, of course. With its amazing openness toward the ancient Egyptian ontological core, which has puzzled students of Plato ever since, the Timaeus eventually provided materials for building a bridge or rapprochement between Christian theology and Platonic philosophy. Christian theology and Christology together have driven their theological roots deep into ancient Egyptian religion. Christian theology and Christology together have driven their theological roots deep into ancient Egyptian religion. Y'all know what that means. Look, we got to hit it. Got to do it. It's documented for you right there. That's a university textbook telling you that. What does it say? Matter of fact, let me put this on a large screen for myself so I don't have to be. Here you go. Christian theology and Christology together have driven their theological roots deep into ancient Egyptian religion. Let me read that again. Christian theology and Christology together have driven their theological roots deep into ancient Egyptian religion. That's from the Gnosis Competition, page 299. Come on, people. I'm sorry. We're not stupid, and we're not going to pretend to be stupid because it makes you uncomfortable. We're not going to pretend to be illiterate because it makes you uncomfortable, Pastor Mason, Vince Bantu, and all the rest of you dum-dums out there, Pastor Bennett, another one of their resident dummies. Yeah, he's a dummy, just like the rest of them. Because they're in denial. You got to be a dummy if you're in denial about something that's as heavily documented as this is. What is the point of being in denial about it? This is not from the conscious community. This is not from 19th century scholars like Gerald Massey. And not only that, this proves that Gerald Massey and Alvin Boyd Kuhn were correct. Duh. So all that stuff you're talking about Massey, not this, that, and the third. No, Massey got technical things wrong. Things like words, things like terminology, and a few other things. But there was a lot that Massey got right. And Massey specifically wrote in his work that he did not subscribe to any of the Egyptomania and craziness that was going on in the 19th century. He wasn't part of that. He was just doing the best he could in his own lane as an armchair scholar to explicate these things for himself and for other people. He got a lot wrong, but he got a lot right. And that's why I always say, I will quote any scholar where they are correct, even a Christian scholar. I quote them where they are correct, and where they're wrong, I will not. It's that simple. So, let us continue. I want you to take this to church with you tomorrow and go in front of your pastor, go into the pulpit, get in front of the microphone and read this out loud to the church. Christian theology and Christology together have driven their theological roots deep into ancient Egyptian religion. Okay? So then we can all go home, have a nice day, and stop lying to each other about things that are already known. Okay? See this? Dr. Karl W. Luckert, Ph.D. Okay? Get over it. Get over it, homie. Christian theology and Christology together have driven their theological roots deep into ancient Egyptian religion. Page 299. Undeniably, Christianity was first inspired by Hebrew kingdom of heaven radicalism. But the first apostles of Christ drew their enthusiasm not so much from their Lord's teaching about the kingdom of heaven as from his personal participation in death and resurrection. Right? With the few, that's what it's all about. That whole resurrection thing. That's where they mess up. Because you're talking ancient. Once you go resurrection, you're talking about ancient Egypt, period. Okay? With a few exceptions, the Apostle Paul discontinued mentioning the kingdom of God. He preferred the less political and more personal body of Christ, mysticism instead. This provided Christians an opportunity to participate more intimately in the death and resurrection of Christ and in Christianized Egyptian soteriology. Oh, you heard that? In Christianized Egyptian soteriology. This is the real scholarship. This is the scholarship at the university level that they're not telling you about. So y'all look at all them little popular books and this, that. No. This is the real shit. This is the real shit. Dr. Karl Luckert, Ph.D. Look him up. I ain't got to make it up. This is published by State University Press. New York State University Press published this. It's a textbook, you dumbass. Telling the truth about where your religion came from. Oh, Google, what they say? YouTube scholarship and Facebook scholarship, zeitgeist. Are you stupid? You gotta be stupid. You gotta be low bro IQ, no IQ, stupid to even mention zeitgeist or even mention all that 19th century BS. But the only reason they mention that or sit on stage saying ancient Egypt had no theology. They do this because they're leaking members. Their members are waking up. Their congregations, not all of them, but many of them are waking up. Many of them are waking up. You live in the information age. Everybody ain't gonna stay stupid for you to make you happy so that you live in your little bubble, in your little echo chamber, your little Jesus echo chamber. No. There's a whole world out here. There's a whole world that pre-existed Christianity that you try to steal, lie about, and edit out of existence. You will never meet anything or anyone more dishonest than a Christian, ever. Ever. Now you know why Jesus was hanging out with the pimps and the prostitutes and the thieves and this, that, and the third. Okay? That's what Christianity is all about. These are the most immoral people you will ever meet. Ever. As long as you're going to defend a lie, you're immoral to me. I don't care who you are. You are immoral. You're morally corrupt. I can hear them now. Did you hear the latest rumor about Shaka? No, don't talk about no rumors about me. Deal with these facts. Deal with these facts. These ain't rumors. These are documented facts. Okay? Talk about me. You don't know me to be talking about me. You don't know my pedigree. You don't really know nothing about me. Because somebody jumps on YouTube and spread rumors, you think you know me? You got to, again. Stupid as stupid does. Right? I'm not responsible for other people's motives. Hey, I got haters. And some of those haters are exes. What do you want me to do? Not all of them. Most of my exes love me, but some exes are really, they mad that it's over. They mad. They hella mad. Want to see me drugged through the street. Well, should have acted right. That's all. Should have did the right thing. Period. If you did the right thing, you'd still be laying right here in the bed. Right? We'd be snuggling up when the broadcast is over. But you ain't do the right thing. So, I don't owe nobody nothing. Yeah. I told you I was going to take the people in the book. Didn't I? You lying asses. No, I didn't say lioness. I said lion ass. That's funny. Christian lion asses. All right. Kind of like lioness. Get it? All right. So let's get back on it. Ain't nobody afraid of y'all. So what did he say? This provided Christians an opportunity to participate more intimately in the death and resurrection of Christ and in Christianized Egyptian soteriology. That means salvation. That's a polite way of saying salvation, right? Christianized Egyptian soteriology. So when they talk about being saved, because that's what soteriology is, being saved, right? They associate being saved with the resurrection. Okay? No resurrection, the story goes, you're not saved. If he just died and stayed dead, you're not saved. In order for them to be saved. So what they did was basically, they edited out the original ancient Egyptian ritual, which would have been the opening of the mouth ceremony and a few other things that go on. Because there actually is a resurrection. In fact, when you get that book by the Society of Biblical Literature, the Ancient Egyptian Text edited by James P. Allen, in the very beginning, I highly recommend that you read the beginning part because it explains to you how each wall is laid out systematically the same way just about the same way in all of the pyramids. And that the incantations, if you will, the prayers, if you will, they always correspond the same way in the pyramids. And one of them is always the resurrection ritual. Okay? Always. And it's that ritual that they edited out. But all they did was they mythologized the ritual. So by mythologizing, how did they mythologize the ritual? They mythologized it by introducing something else as the ritual. So the ritual here is, because in other words, why is it a ritual? Because the whole Jesus narrative is not effective and not conclusive without these markers happening in successive order. First, he has to be crucified. Then he has to die. And then 3 days later, he's supposed to be resurrected and go to heaven. Okay? Or on the third day, he rose. right? And ascended to heaven. So we have different versions of it. But so that becomes the new ritual now. The dying on the cross, dying on the rising on the third day, and then going to heaven. That's to be by the right hand of God. That's the new ritual. So they edited out the original ritual because they really didn't know it, and they instituted the this narrative as the new ritual. Because this is still a ritual. You understand what I'm saying? That's why these course of events must take place in that particular order. What do you think a ritual is? A set of events that takes place in a particular order. And so they tried to supplant the original Egyptian ritual, which I talked about and showed and documented in the previous broadcast presentation. And they instituted that sequential narrative as the new ritual in its place. Okay? Which is really kind of cheap, because even that part is in the Egyptian text as well. Okay, the part about rising 3 days later and all of that on the third day, right? That's in the Egyptian text. So it's in the pyramid text. So where are we? Ooh, this thing jumps like nobody's business, boy, I tell you. Okay. Where we at? Okay. Okay. I think here we are right here. The kerygma of God having begotten a son. Let's read this again. The kerygma of God having begotten a son, of that son having been born, having died, risen, and ascended to the Father, is what has an encouraging resonance from the broad background spectrum of ancient Egyptian ontology. So then maybe perhaps what Muhammad Tanzimore needs to be looking at, instead of commenting on ancient Egyptian theology, you need to be commenting on ancient Egyptian ontology. All right, because it's their ontology that is embedded in your theology. So now we can appreciate the relationship between the two. Okay, theologically, okay, it's going to be how can I put it? It's going to be a very dynamic situation because of the way ancient Egyptian religion existed and evolved, right, over time. Itself was extraordinarily dynamic. It was not static like Christianity. Christianity is very static, right? It's stuck, right? Imagine if you had a car that was stuck. Imagine if you had a plane that was stuck. Imagine if you had I don't know, a computer that was stuck, right? Well, that's Christianity. It's static. It's stuck. And then they try to commission an ancient Egyptian religion because it was dynamic and fluid and malleable. That is somehow the inferior religion. Like, huh? It's like when you have less intelligent people making observations and conclusions about things, it's to those who are really in the know, you can't help but be embarrassed for them. You really can't, because it's like, it's embarrassing, you know, but you can't tell nobody how long to keep up a charade. They keep it up as long as they want. No, they have every right to keep it up as long as they want. Okay. So read that last part one more time. The kerygma of God having begotten a son, of the son having been born, having died, risen, and ascended to the Father, is what has an encouraging resonance from the broad background spectrum of ancient Egyptian ontology. It has long been suspected by historians of religions that a general knowledge about death and resurrection associated specifically with Osiris mythology in Egyptian religion may have aided the success of the Christian story in the wider Hellenistic world. The well-established structure of ancient Egyptian ontology, eschatology, and soteriology, which was widely regarded as common sense, made it possible to believe that the Son of God rose from death as his essential ka, his essential soul, and thus returned to the Father. Okay? What is kerygma? It's a theological term, and it means the preaching or proclamation of the Christian gospel. Okay? What is Hellenistic? Those of you who don't know. Hold on. Right, hold on. Oh, let's get back here. Hellenistic, relating to Greek history, language, and culture. Fuck, I can't even touch my mouse without this thing jumping. It is the worst, man. I literally cannot touch it. Okay. Relating to Greek history, language, and culture, from the death of Alexander to the Great, to the defeat of Cleopatra and Mark Antony by Octavian in 31 BC. During this period, Greek culture flourished, spreading through the Mediterranean and into the Near East and Asia, and centering on Alexandria in Egypt and the Pergamum in Turkey. Okay, and that includes Palestine, people. The Levant. Talking about the Near East. Okay. When Greek philosopher minds listened to the Apostle Paul in Athens, this part here. Hold on one second. All right. Stop sharing. All right. Let me stop sharing. All right. So this was part 2. We're going to come back into the book tomorrow. Why? Because the next part, this is going to be kind of going in. And I need to be really fresh and well rested to deal with the next part. Okay? So, in keeping with my obligation to the platform, because I have to be obligated to the platform to keep the platform alive and well, right? As I said at the beginning of, oops, here we go. Here we go. 2. Here we go. Right. At the beginning of each broadcast, and at the are you serious? Oh, do me that. And at the end of each broadcast, hold on one second. Here we go. Right. At the beginning of each broadcast and at the end of each broadcast, home economics must be addressed. And so, as I've said repeatedly, I don't teach for free because that's the fastest way. First of all, I don't want to teach you to do things for free. Not that you shouldn't sometimes do, but when what you do has value, you have to be compensated for what you do. So as I tell people, if you watched and you learned, and you value the content, then request that you pay for the content by paying whatever you want. Just go to Cash App, $ Shakka-Ahmose, and with your resources, it lets me know I'm doing what you want. I'm teaching. You don't have to jump over hurdles and do all kind of great things. Just pay what you want. Just go to Shakka-Ahmose, $ Shakka-Ahmose. Go to Cash App, put in $ Shakka-Ahmose, and you can compensate the platform for the content that was imparted to you tonight. Because there's a lot of work that goes into this. There's much more work that goes into this than you could possibly imagine. Like the amount of hours reading, it's the heavy lifting. It's the real heavy lifting that other people don't have to do, that you don't have to do. You don't have to sit down and read the whole book. You don't have to sit down and triangulate these things and show them in reference to other things that really explain them, which is what the next part is. That's why I said I'm not doing that part right now. It's too late. I'm not rested the way I should be. So I'm going to save that for later today or tomorrow, if you will, Mother's Day. And we're going to come back and we're going to go in. And thank you for spending this time with me in the Hieroglyph platform. I'm going to look at comments because I haven't read comments for a while. I've been in my own world as teaching. So let's take a look. Oh, wonderful. I really appreciate that. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Courtney. That means a lot to me. It means everything because I want you to be informed. I want you to get what you wouldn't get otherwise. If I don't teach you this stuff, nobody's going to show you. You're going to drift from channel to channel, listening to a lot of garbage and a lot of things that don't really have any real scholarly meat, like any real scholarly bite. And that's what I want you to have. You understand what I'm saying? I really, really want you to have that. So let's see. Hey, all right. That's what's up. Okay. Okay. Hey, look at that. Gu is actually from Heliopolis. Hey, wonderful. Okay. Wonderful. What a hey Tasha, glad you're here. Absolutely, peace to you. Absolutely. So when you hear when you hear someone say something like
Egypt has no theology. Egypt has no theology. And I think what a lot of people is getting confused when they're being addressed by Kemetics and different people that study in Egyptology is that they have a sound system. They don't.
Stop looking at ancient Egyptian theology and look at ancient Egyptian ontology. See, you're lost and confused. You're lost and confused. First of all, there was no such thing as ancient Egyptian theology. When you really want to get down to it, it's ancient Egyptian theologies. Theologies, plural. They had various theologies because they had various systems. You can't compare Christianity to ancient Egypt. Okay, we can highlight the derivatives in Christianity of ancient Egypt, but you can't compare Christianity to ancient Egypt because they're not the same thing, right? It's not the same situation. Ancient Egypt is a 5,000-year-old civilization. Christianity is not that. So it's silly. It's kind of like comparing a goldfish to a whale shark. They're both fish. A whale shark is the biggest fish in the world. Okay? A blue whale is not a fish. For those of you who don't know that. All right. The whale shark is the biggest fish in the world. So it's like comparing a whale shark to a goldfish. All right. Or to any of the much smaller relatives of the whale shark. You know? And can you imagine that little smaller relative of the whale shark acting like it ain't got no connection to the big one, where that's where it's descended from? You know? So, it's reprehensible that you have black people, I call them Negroes. You have Negroes commenting on things that are way above their head. They don't know the material. They don't know the material like they think they do. That's why they sit on the stage and miseducate black people with their miseducated selves. That's what Carter G. Woodson said. They fit the criteria and the description of the miseducated Negro that Carter G. Woodson described, down to a T. He said they admire the Hebrew, the Greek, the Teutonic, right? That's what he said. And the German. These are all European or European received biblical languages. They're all biblical language, European or otherwise. They're all biblical. And he said the miseducated Negro admires those languages, but they despise the African. So don't tell me about Christianity being African or black, because where it counts and where it really matters, the language, that's not how it was given to the world. That's not how it came to us. It came through Greek. Don't tell me about Aramaic. It came through Greek. I don't hear about some Targums and this, that, and the, or the Peshitta. It came through Greek. Period. You're talking about a civilization that's been around for how many thousands of years that gave these concepts and precepts to the world, and you want us to buy into some Greek story? You, as the truth of God's word, are you out of your mind? Something got to be seriously wrong with you, culturally, academically, or you're sick. And somebody needs to look you in your face and say, yo, homie, check yourself before you wreck yourself, because you sick. You sick and don't know it. So, we did our due diligence this evening, and when we're going to come back tomorrow, I'm going to get some rest. I'm going to make myself a little snack, hopefully. Ooh, yeah. Some apples and honey roasted peanut butter, organic from Whole Foods. I love it. Dip my apples in it. And that's it. And you really need to show up tomorrow. Bring some friends, invite some family members. You can have something better to talk around the table at Thanksgiving and Christmas and all that other holidays y'all celebrate. At least you can have some intelligent conversation. At least have some intelligent conversation about this subject matter, because it actually covers a lot more than just religion. Right? It's about restoring your mind back and it's about restoring your relationship really on a much deeper level. It's about restoring your relationship with time back to an intact nature, an intact relationship. So, because that's the main crime that Christianity did, was it stole time from the world. The same way it edited out the ritual of the ancient Egyptian ritual, the same way Christianity edited that out of the gospel. Well, on a much larger scale, the main thing that they edited out was time. They edited by editing out the knowledge, you were separated from time, history, the historical record, things that you cannot account for. You can't account for them because they were submerged, obfuscated, and appropriated by Christendom, by Christianity. Yes. And so therefore, there's a whole swath of time, millennia, thousands of years of our identity, our worldview, our continental and ancestral and aesthetic way of looking at the world and presenting to the world. You blocked off from all of that. Why do you think I come on here like this before you looking like this? Why do you think? I just want to have fun. No. It's to put something back intact in store, to restoration, to restore that which was taken asunder, that which was pulled apart, that which was to restore it. Period. Right? And if we're talking about ancient Kemet as the land of resurrection, well, now this image is resurrected before you. You have to deal with that resurrection. Pastor Mason, Vince Bantu, Adam Coleman, Damon Richardson, Pastor Bennett, and all the rest of you mental midgets, Christian mental midgets. Now this image is resurrected before you. Your people are talking about me in your churches. right? People are mentioning me in their books. Ph.D. people putting me in their books. Didn't even ask my permission. That's all right. I take it as an honor, the privilege. Just getting started. This is part 2. Part 3 is going to be insightful, part 4. And then when we get through this book, woo, it's going to start getting ugly. But I want to bring the Black community through these works. And we're also going to be looking at the great, great work of a wonderful brother, Salim Faraji, Professor Dr. Salim Faraji. You have to, his work is indispensable. You can't have a serious conversation about early Christianity and the Egyptian literature that was seminal to the production of the Gospels. You can't have a conversation about that subject and leave his work out. You got to be out of your mind, you know. And so, shout out to him, and shout out to the Kemetic community at large. You have my love, my appreciation, and my respect. Keep doing what you're doing. I just want to see y'all looking more Kemetic. If you need help with that, contact me. I'll help you. I will be selling my COTS, my classes. It's called a COT or a class. Either one, you can look at it. You can refer to it as. And I have them in white, blue, rawhide rust, and green, and black. Yeah. Okay. And you will be able to get them at Shakka-Ahmose.com. Okay. They're lambskin leather, genuine leather, the real deal. And that's it. So that way you could show up looking like your former self in your former glory. I can see your halo, halo, halo. You can see my halo, halo. Okay. So, with that said, let me look at the comments. I haven't looked at the comments before I leave. Yeah. Okay, cool. Awesome. Yeah. That's it. No question. Absolutely. Resurrect and restore. Yes, absolutely. So I wanted you to see that, Courtney. I really hope that you saw what I showed on this screen tonight in the text by Professor Luckert. And because these Christians want to pretend and act like this stuff is not academic and that we're not, we're just making, it's all YouTube and all of this silly stuff they say. It's embarrassing. It's like what Dr. John Henry Clark used to say. Every time you open your mouth, the only thing you're telling me is what you haven't read. That's what I think about when I think about these guys. Every time they open their mouth, I love it when they talk because it just makes it very clear to me what they don't know. And I love it. Every time they do a video and they respond to me and they say all these stupid things, I don't even bother responding to the responses. I'll save that for later when I'm bored and I ain't got nothing to do. But nah. Every time they just have no education. I mean, I don't know what to tell. I don't know what to tell them, other than get your weight up. Especially if you fucking with me, get your weight up. Yeah, facts. Because I'm gonna see to it that Black people know. And the thing that I had to learn that somebody pointed out to me, they said, Shaka, you have to remember where you were 30 years ago. There's somebody there right now who wants to know, who wants to learn, but it's not readily available to them. And that's why I'm doing this. Because somebody's going to say, oh, go watch Shakka-Ahmose. He'll explain it. You'll see it. And he presents responsible scholarship. And we'll tell you, go read it for yourself. Go check for yourself. You see, those Christians will never tell you that. They will never tell you, go check for yourself. Because when you check for yourself, you're going to be out of their purview, so to speak. You're going to be out from under their auspices, so they can't monitor you and manipulate your thinking. So that's why they don't encourage independent thinking. Your own Bible does. What's it? Do not rely on your own understanding. What'd you give me a brain for? So, yeah. So with that, I know some of y'all got to get ready for church tomorrow. I know a lot of these pastors and Christians are watching. So let me let y'all go and do what you got to do. And I'll see you here tomorrow. Make sure when you come home from lying to the people in church, we'll be right here. I'm thinking around 3 o'clock. We'll be right here. And it's on. We're going to get with part 3. Okay? So with that, love yourselves. Look in the mirror. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not an atheist. So say thank you to God that you had today and that your family's okay and that, count your blessings. That's what I tell everybody. Count your blessings. Don't every single day, every morning and every night, count your blessings. Oh, and when you wake up in the morning, listen to me. Look at me. Look at me. Look at me. Look at me. When you wake up in the morning, before you say or do anything else, just listen to positive affirmations. They're on YouTube. Just type them in, positive affirmations. If you want to listen to positive affirmations about money, if you want to listen to positive affirmations about hustling, about health, about love, whatever it is that you want more of in your life, just listen to positive affirmations. Do what I'm telling you to do. I'm not asking you, I'm telling you to do this. Because what it will do for your day is, it's priceless, and you can stretch in the morning while you're listening to it just to help you get your day off to a really great start. That's what I want you all to do. Because I have such beautiful starts to my day. I want other people to have beautiful starts to their day. So do that. It doesn't matter what shape you're in, what your color is, what your sex is, if you got children, don't know children, whatever. Just do it. Type in YouTube, positive affirmations, and just listen to them. Go to sleep listening to them, wake up listening to them, play them in the morning, all of that. Just remind you. Why? Because you want to influence the narrative in your mind, right? Subconsciously, you want to start. The more you inundate it, it affects how you think and how you see the world and yourself. Okay? So with that, I just wanted to say that. Okay? So, okay. Love you all. As we say in ancient Kemet, middleware. And I'll see you tomorrow or later today. Okay? Bye-bye.